Hilchos Shcheinim Perek Chamishi. Now, before we were learning about the dinim of a chotzer, when you have two people that are living in one chotzer, when they could demand from each other to divide the chotzer, and once they divide the chotzer, the demanding of having a wall between each other in order to prevent the hezekriya one to another. Other dinim where one person could mun from his shachan, what could he mun? What could the Baal Haliyah mun from the Baal Abayis? What can the Baal Abayis mun from the Baal Aliyah? Now we're learning about dinim when two people living together in one chutzner, or in one mavi, or in one city. In other words, what obligations do they have towards each other? In other words, there's certain needs that are that they all need. What obligations does one have towards the other that the other one could run and say, listen, this is a mutual need, this is a need that we all need, and therefore you have to be mishtatev in it. And what time, what kind of needs do we say no? These are not things which are absolute necessities, and therefore one can't force the other to be able to be mishtatev. That's dinim, one dinim. And al derech zeh, when you have people living together, what kind of things could one person claim that the other person shouldn't do? And what could each one do and say, listen, since we're living here together, these are my rights, even though if you don't really like it, but nevertheless, these are my rights to do. Perek Chamishi. Chatzar shutfim. When you have a chotzer, that shutfim are both using the same chotzer. So each one has a house in this chotzer, and they're both using the chotzer together. Is kolechad mem koifes chavere. Each one could force the other one. Las is ba beishar. Beishar means like a little hut, a little room for the gateway, for the person that was before you actually go into the shar, into the doorway, into the to lead into the chutzner. There would be like a little room where that would be like a vestibule in order to get into the chutzner. Either the shemer hashar was there, or it was just in order to prevent people from being able to look into the chutzner when you open the door. So you could force each other to build a beishar, and also a dallas, a door to the chutzner, that there should be a door. V'chein kol hadvarim sha'chutzner tzricha lamtzeir gadol, all the important needs that a chutzner has, edvarim shenagu b'nei hamedina laseisim, or even if they're not such important needs. Those the door is obviously an important need, that there should be a door to the chutzner, and other needs which are important needs, or even things that are not so important, but things that it's regular for the people to be mishtatev in a chutzner. Aval sh'ar advarim, but other things, again, tzir v'kir, there's certain decorations that you want to make in the chutzner, ukiyetzebei. They are not needs, and they're not something which are necessarily regular for the bnei chutzner to do, is eine kefeil. So you can't force the other person to do it. So nachamo, people are living together in a chutzner, so they can force each other to make a beishar, you can force each other to make a delis. We'll soon see other things that you can force each other to do, and also things that are normal to do in a chutzner, that all of them are mishtatev, but things that are not so regular, things like tzir v'kir, to make designs, to make artwork, and there's things to make things nice. But on the other hand, it's not absolutely necessary, so one can't force the other one to be mishtatev. Now, asa echad mem le'atzmei, if one of them did it on his own, in other words, he didn't force the other one to do it, but lepel, he paid for it on his own. Now, in gila sheini daite shenoyach le b'masha asa chaveri, if that person was megala das, that he's happy with what the other person did, in other words, it pleases him, he's happy that it happened, so then megalgan all of a sakel, then we force him to also be mishtatev. And v'neis nechel kibeitzo, which is similar to what we learned, that if you build 3 walls around someone, and then that person builds the 4th wall, so that's, or a person builds the wall higher than 4 amas, and then you show that you're megaladas, that you're happy that he built something higher, so then you're megaladas, you're happy about it, so then the din is you have to be mishtatev in the hitzah. Halacha beis. Now, normally when we're talking about chatzar hashutf, it means that a number of people live together in the same chutzner, so they all have to be mishtatev in the needs of that chutzner, the basic needs of the chutzner, and also the normal needs that people are normally mishtatev, even though they're not so basic needs. Now, mishi yeshli bayis b'chutzner acheres, someone that owns a house in a chutzner, but he doesn't live there. Whereas before we were talking about chatzar hashutfim, people live in the chutzner together. Here we're talking about a person that owns a house, but he doesn't live there. Is bnei hamchutzner mishabdenei say lasis imoim delis v'nagar umanol. So in other words, those basic needs like a door, and also a bolt, and a manol and a lock. So these things you could force him to be mishtatev in it, even if he doesn't live there. Aval b'shar advarim, other things which normally you would be able to force the people that are living in the chutzner to be able to do that. But since he is not living in the chutzner, so that basic shmir of having a door, a bolt, and a lock, that you can be mechayiv. Aval b'shar advarim, which you can be mechayiv, the other people who live in the chutzner, ein mishabnei, so you can't force him to do it. V'im ha'yishari moim b'eisa chutzner, but if he lives with them together in the same chutzner, so that is mishabnei selakil. Then he has to do everything. Everything means all those things that were mentioned in halacha aleph, which are the dvarim hagdolim that people need, and also the dvarim which are noyagim that people use. Halacha gimel. Echad min hashutfim b'chutzner, shebikesh lahamid ba behema, erichayim, elegadol ba tarnagelim. He lives in the chutzner, and he wants to have a behema in the chutzner, or he wants to have chickens in the chutzner, or he wants to have a mill in the chutzner. So the din is chaveri me'akaval. The other people in the chutzner, or other person in the chutzner, could say, no, this disturbs me. I don't want you to have this in the chutzner. I don't want you to have a behema in the chutzner. I don't want you to have targelim in the chutzner. I don't want you to have a richaim in the chutzner. And v'chein she'ar dvarim she'ein derech anshe amokim lasis b'chatzriseim is bekulon hashutfim ma'akim zelzeh. Everything a person, if it's not regular for it to be done in the chutzner, and someone wants to do something which is not regular to be done in the chutzner, so the other people of the chutzner or one person in the chutzner could say no, that he protests, he objects, he doesn't want that person to do it, and he could prevent the other person from doing it. Chutz min hakvisa, from washing clothes. The other option would be to go to the river and wash the clothes there, and that would be a bizoyin for a woman to go to mizbaza al anor. So memela, so even if it's not the derech mamish to have it in the chutzner, but nevertheless a person could insist that I want that to wash the clothes here in the chutzner in order that the woman shouldn't have to go to the nor and be mizbaza al anor. Halacha dalet. Now this din we're speaking till now about chatzar hashutfim, but there's also musig mavi. A chutzner is a place where you have an area where there's houses built in the chutzner, and a mavi, like we learned in Hilchos Shabbos, a mavi is you have chatzeres, and there's like a street that in between the chatzeres, and all the chatzeres share the street in order to go out to the Rishus Harabim. Is as echad chatzar hashutfim, ve'echad mavi she'eni mefulish. If you have a mavi she'eni mefulish, if you have a mavi mefulish, so it's like a thoroughfare. That's more of like a Rishus Harabim. Mashenkin, if you have a mavi she'eni mefulish, so it's like a cul-de-sac. It's something which is closed up from one side. So kol b'nei mavi ma'akvim zelzeh. So all the people of the mavi could go ahead and prevent shalei lishtamish b'mavi ela b'derech b'dvarim shedereh b'nei Medina lishtamish b'mavois. It's not considered an open area. It's like more of it's not a private area. And as a house is a private house, then there's a chutzner, which is a private area for the people of the houses. And then there's a mavi, which is a private area for the people of the chatzeres. So any person that's living in that mavi could prevent someone that wants to do something in the mavi, which is not regular to do in the mavi, so you can prevent him from doing it in the mavi. Halacha hey. Echad min hashutfim b'chutzner shehamid behema irichayim v'kiyetzavim b'chutzner. The pale he put a behem over there. He put a richayim. He put a chveis tarnagelim in the chutzner. Something which someone could have objected to it, and he didn't. Well, micha beishutfim, and the other person wasn't meicha. So the din is hareze ma'akav of kol zman sheyirtzu. So we're going to learn behemshach that there are certain things which you're koina, or as a kinyan, if you make a chazak in a certain hezek, so you have a right, since that person wasn't meicha, so that person can no longer be meicha. But mashenkin, these things, putting in a chutzner, a behema, or richaim, ukyetzebem, so even if that person wasn't meicha, that doesn't give you the right to do it. It doesn't take it away from him that right to still be meicha. That person could still be meicha kol zman sheyirtzu. That's talking about if you just put a behema or richaim in the chutzner, that person wasn't meicha. He wasn't meicha for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but nevertheless, now all of a sudden he comes and he says, I can't take it. This is not something which I appreciate, and therefore you have to take it away. However, in other words, you created like a little area which is a secluded area. In other words, you separated an area from the chutzner, and over there you put this behema or you put this mill or whatever it is. So then is hichzik. So the fact, and that nobody was meicha. Because if they weren't meicha for you putting a mill there or putting a behema there, so they still have a right to go ahead even later and be meicha. But if you went ahead and made a mechitza, and over there you put the behema, behind the mechitza, over there you put the mill, so then they should have been meicha right away. And if they weren't meicha, means they were maskim to this setup. and therefore shashutfim makpidim al mechitza. Shutfim would normally be mecha, and v'heil v'hinichim mochel. So we say he's mechel. In other words, the fact that he put over there behema, the fact that he put a mill, doesn't mean that he was mechel. It means that he wasn't meicha, but he wasn't meichel. Masha'inkin over here, the fact that he let this mechitza go up means he was meichel, and once he was meichel, he can't be meichel. Now, by medvar mamurim, this idea that if you put up a mechitza, and once you put up mechitza, so it becomes your rights there, and therefore that person can't be meicha anymore, that's talking about chatzar hashutfim. Whereas you're a shutef in this chatzar, and now you put a behema or a mill into this chatzar, and normally if you put a behema and a mill into this chatzar, so the shutef could be meicha, and even if you put it there and he wasn't meicha, he could still be meicha, but if you went ahead and put a mechitza there, so then he can no longer be meicha. But that's talking about because you are a shutef there. If we're dealing that there's a chatzah which you're bechlal not a shutef there, it's a chatzah that belongs to someone, and you bring a behema there, or you bring a mill there, and then you put a mechitza there. So then, and you're tiny, that's the person didn't say anything, so therefore you have a right to do it. Aval b'chatzar chaveri, afil hemed behemte, and v'asali mechitza lehevzik. He let you do it, but it doesn't mean that he sold you the field. The field is not yours. In other words, if a person goes ahead and puts a tanur or tarnagelim into someone else's chotzer, and even that person wasn't moicha and he made a mechitza, nevertheless, that person could always be meicha. She'im tamer, here's if you're going to say the din is that if a person goes ahead and puts something in someone else's chotzer, he becomes already a murzik in it, is ein lecha adam shemashal makom chaveira. No one will ever lend anyone place because that person will become over here a murzik. So that would create a chaos. In other words, every time a person lends someone something, you have to make a whole clarity that the person is not becoming a murzik. So therefore, the general din is that if someone is using someone else's chotzer, unless it's something clear that he sold it to him, he gave him rights to it, so we say that he's giving him reshus to use it, but the vaila is giving him to reshus to use it, and as soon as he wants, he could ask him to leave. So that's the din. So if you put something in someone else's chotzer, so even if you put a mechitza there, so lepel, you're not koina. You don't have a chazak in it. If you put something in the chotzer which you're a shutef in, so it depends. If you put, let's say, a behem or a mill or whatever, and something which you really don't, that person could protest, and he didn't protest. So, and then he does protest, so then he has a right to protest. Masha'inkin, if you put a mechitza over there, so once you put a mechitza there and he didn't protest, so the din is there, you're koina that schus to keep it there. Halacha vav, echad min hashutfim shebikesh lefteach lechalein b'teich beisei lechotzer. He lives in a house in the chotzer, and now he wants to open a window that should be able to look into the chotzer. So the din is chaveri makev olav. The other person could prevent him from opening this window, because he's able to look at him in the chotzer from that window. So even though lechura they both walk in the chotzer, so they both see each other, but they see each other while they're both in the chotzer. So he could see that someone's in the chotzer, so he wouldn't do things that he doesn't want someone else to see while he's in the chotzer. Masha'inkin, if he's alone in the chotzer, he may be doing things which he's expecting. No one's watching him. But if that person has a window and that person could look at him from the window, so that'll create a new uncomfortableness in the chotzer. So therefore, the person in the chotzer, ketaina, I don't want you to have a window that you should be able to look from the window into the chotzer. That's echad min hashutfim shebikesh lefteich lechalein b'teich beisei lechotzer chaveri ma'akav olav mipnei shemistakel be'mimena, because he could look at him from this chotzer. The impasach, and if he did open the window, is yistem. That's din number one. Now v'chein liyiftuchu hashutfim b'chotzer. The shutfim in the chotzer shouldn't open a pesach keneged pesach. There's one door connected another door, a bias, pesach bias connected pesach bias, a chalein connected chalein. So you shouldn't open a door connected a door or a chalein connected a chalein. Now, the way the Torah brings down this din, it's not really like a hemshech to halacha aleph. The first halacha. The first halacha is the pshat is one person is me'akev the other person from doing something. Over here we're saying that even if they both agree, in other words, b'atzim I could stop you from making a window. But over here we agree. We agree to make a window. You agree I should make a window. I agree you should make a window. But nevertheless, there's a din that you shouldn't open a Pesach keneged Pesach and a Chalein keneged Chalein. That's in of tznius, because lepel, if you have a Chalein keneged Chalein, so it's possible to look from one Chalein into the other Chalein. Now that is from the Pesach keneged Pesach. The Rambam, it's not like the Mashmois Advarim sounds like v'chein. It's like a hemshech to the din. In other words, somehow or another that that I have a right to open this Pesach, but I don't have a right to open this Pesach Keneged Pesach. Or I have a right to have a chalein, but I don't have a right to make a chalein Keneged chalein. But you have to have the tzir exactly. In other words, for some reason or other, there's no concern about the fact that I'm opening a chalein l'chatzar chavere, but the concern is only that it's chalein Keneged chalein. I'll call upon him. Is nachamal. The first din is that you could stop someone from opening a window into the chutzner because you're tiny that person will be able to look at me from the window into the chutzner. That's din number one. Another din is that you shouldn't open a chalein keneged chalein or a pesach bayis keneged pesach bayis. And we said that in the Torah it comes out. It's not a din that one is being ma'ak of the other. They're both agreeing, but nevertheless there's a new din that you shouldn't do it. Aval piseach adam l'shus harabim. Pesach keneged Pesach or v'chalein keneged chalein. So if a person is in a Rishus HaRabim and over here he's opening a Pesach which is keneged a Pesach which is on the other side of the Rishus HaRabim, or he's opening a chalein into the Rishus HaRabim and that's keneged a chalein which is on the other side of the Rishus HaRabim, so that he's allowed to do. Why? Because he could say to the other person that has the Pesach, Hareini ke'echad minei Rishus HaRabim shereini ischa. Since it's in Rishus HaRabim, so people are able to see. So therefore, anyways, you have to worry about your door to make sure to keep your door closed, so the people in Rishus HaRabim shouldn't be able to see. So al derech zeh, I can have a door connected your door, and al derech zeh, you have to make sure to keep your window closed in order for people in Rishus HaRabim not to be able to see through your window. So al derech zeh, so I could have my window connected your window. So in a chotzer. So there's a taina. You shouldn't open the window connected the window, or the door connected the door. Masha'in ken in Rishus HaRabim, there's no tainus. In the Maisa with the Rishus HaRabim, for sure there's a tayin v'nitin over there. Over there the word is that he's taining. You're opening a door and connected my door. So he says no, but anyways you have to watch for the Rishus HaRabim. Or he's taining, you're opening a window connected my window. So he says anyways you have to watch because there's Rishus HaRabim. So it sounds again, so the beginning of Allah Vav is talking about Atayim V'Nitten, and the end of Allah Vav is also talking about Atayim V'Nitten. So to say the middle, that the din is that you don't open a Pesach and get Pesach, is without Atayim V'Nitten, means they're both agreeing, not so glatik and pshat. So you have to have it sear that on one hand I'm allowed to open a Pesach, but on the other hand I can't open a Pesach and get your Pesach. On one hand I'm allowed to open a Chalein in this Chatzar, but on the other hand I can't open the Chalein, can I get your Chalein? We don't have the taina of l'chura, you're being meval with the chotzer. Your only taina is that you're being meval with my Pesach. You have to have the exact tzir. Halacha zayin. Va'afal pikein. So even though you're allowed to open a Pesach, can I get Pesach in Rishus HaRabim, and that person doesn't have a taina that l'chura you're opening a Pesach, can I get Pesach, so you're being mazik me, because anyways you have to watch with the Rishus HaRabim. Abel yiftach adam chanus. Keneged Pesach Chatzar Chaveri. A person shouldn't open a chanus. A chanus is like a little booth you have in the Rishus HaRabim which you sell things from. So you shouldn't open a chanus Keneged Pesach Chatzar Chaveri, which is across the Pesach Chatzar Chaveri. Shezeh has a kavua tamid, because you're standing in the chanus the whole time. Shari bnei Rishus HaRabim Evrim v'Shavim. The people in Rishus HaRabim keep walking back and forth. So therefore, it's not such a hezekriya. So therefore you can have a taina. So there's no taina of a person opens a Pesach of his bias keneged Pesach of someone else's bias in Rishus HaRabim. And al derech zeh chalein keneged chalein. But there is a taina that a person shouldn't open a chanus keneged Pesach of the chotzer chaveri, because since the chanus is stealing the be'efin shel kavua, so then it's a taina that's much worse than just the bnei Rishus HaRabim that walk by. Halacha ches. Echad min hashutfim b'chotzer shelokach bayis b'chotzer acher. So there's a chotzer, and let's say that chotzer is divided by a wall, and one of the shutfim that own a house in one chotzer went ahead and bought a house in another chotzer. Now he wants to, from that house, to be able to go from that house into this other chotzer in which he already owns a house. There's one chotzer that he owns a house, and now he owns another house in another chutzner, but he wants to have he owns a chutzner, let's say, next to the wall, so he wants to be able to go from that chutzner, which is chutzner beis, let's say, into chutzner aleph. He wants to go from the house, which is in chutzner beis. He's opening a door to be able to enter from that house into chutzner aleph. Nachamal echad min hashutfim b'chutzner shelokach bayis b'chutzner acheres. Now he bought a house in another chutzner. Is eine yochel liftech pischei lechatzar hashutfim shelo. He can't open a door from that new house that he bought in the second chutzner to be able to go into this chutzner which he already had a house. That's the number one. Why? Because lepel, there's the people of this chutzner are the houses that are in this chutzner have a right to use this chutzner. The people in this chutzner don't want that the houses of another chutzner, even though it's the same person that owns the house in this chutzner, but now there's like new people. There's going to be new people living in that house, maybe. And those new people are going to be coming into their chutzner, so there's going to be more people in the chutzner. They don't want so many people walking in their chutzner. So the people in their chutzner, the people that have houses in their chutzner, can walk in their chutzner. This person, even though he has a house in this chutzner, but now he's going to like he's building a second house in this chutzner, like he's putting a second house up in this chutzner. He doesn't have that right. He has a house in the chutzner and he has a right to use the chutzner, but he doesn't have a right to bring another house from the second chutzner into this chutzner by building a door from that house into this chutzner. And the same thing, the first case was actually two houses and two chatzeres. Over here, he has a house, and now he's building an upper floor on his house, and now he's going to build a ladder going from that upper floor to the chutzner. So basically, there could be a new tenants. You have tenants in the upper floor, and a new family is joining into this chutzner. This person has no right to go ahead and create a new situation where there's a new apartment and there's a new family that's joining this chutzner. He has a right to use this chutzner, just like everyone else has a right to use this chutzner. But he doesn't have a right to create a new apartment in this chutzner, which is going to create a new family using this chutzner. Afilu bona, that's the same din like the first din. Afilu bona ali al gabi beis liyaselo pesach l'techa chutzner. He shouldn't bring a new door into the chutzner lefi shemar ba'aleina saderech, because he's now creating new people walking in this chutzner. They're tiny. They don't want new people walking in this chutzner. So basically, I had one neighbor, and Shcheinim harbin. Now all of a sudden I have a lot of neighbors, and I don't want to have so many neighbors in my chutzner. He could build an upper floor, and he could build a door in between, inside the house, between the lower floor and the upper floor. So then, presumably, it's not going to be a new tenant, because it's that person's going to have to go through his house. So the people in this house, in other words, if there's many people in this house, so some of them will be able to live in the upper floor. But we're not worried that there's going to be new tenants into this house. The imrotza lachlik chadri l'shnayim is also chelik. If a person has a house and he wants to divide his house into two rooms, that he also do it, because again, we're talking about a situation where he's not bringing in new tenants. You cannot bring in new tenants into the chutzner, because you're bringing new people into the chutzner, and you have no right. Your right is your house with your family. That's you have a right to use in the chutzner. To introduce a new house, a new apartment with a new family, you don't have that right. Mikana tolamet she'echad min hashutfim shehevi etzter lebeisei anshe bayis acher. So one of the shutfim in a chutzner goes ahead and brings into his house people from another house. Is yesh lechaveda lakav olav? You can say, listen, you have a house here, your family could live here, but now you're inviting another family into this house, and now all into your house, and now all of a sudden we have another family living here in this chutzner. Is also you don't have that right. So you have no right to invite another family into this house, into this chutzner. A person rents out a house to someone. And now this person that rented the house is going ahead, besides the fact that he's living there, he's bringing his friends, his relatives to live in this house. So then the person that rented him out the house could say, listen, I rented you a house, one family. You're going to start bringing other families into the house, so that's not really good for the house. L'chur, it's a different type of din. In other words, the first din is that basically we have use of the chutzner. Since we have use of the chutzner, so you're bringing another family, so like intruding into the chutzner. The chutzner is going to become a crowded chutzner. Until now, we had these two families. Now we're going to have three families into the chutzner. I don't want to share the chutzner with three families. Over here, the pshat is I'm giving my house away. I'm renting my house out, so I'm giving it for your use. I only want one family to use my house. I'm not even there. It could be I'm very far away from the house. It's a different type of din. The Rambam is like saying of v'chein. This din is the v'chein. In other words, even though I'm bringing him into my family, into the same house, but lepel, since it's a different family, so therefore I could have tinus. Maybe that's the v'chein. Halacha yud. Hoye pesach shel echad min hashutfim katan. You have two people, let's say two houses in a chutzner, and they both have doors to get into their house. One of them had a small door. Now he wants to make the door wider. He can't make the door wider. The other person of the chutzner says, whereas when I use the chutzner and I know that there's only a small door, so for that I'm comfortable. I can make sure that in this small door you're not going to be able to see me. You can have a larger door, so that's going to be more of an invasion to my privacy. And if there's a large door and he wants to make from that large door two doors, he cannot make from a large door two doors. Because the other person says, it was one door, it's like a large door, but it was one door, so I was able to see if you're there or you're not there. However, b'shnayim, if there's two doors, I'm not going to be able to really see if you are there or you're not there, and therefore, again, it's going to be invading my privacy. It's taking away from my being able to use the chutzner as I want to. Someone that has a small door to the shusarab, and he wants to make the door wider. A rachav, or he had a wide door to the shusarab, he wants to make it two doors. So the person across him can be ma'akev. And because l'chura the din is that you're allowed to bechlal build a door connected the door in Rosh Hashanah. Whereas if there's a Rosh Hashanah and you want to build a door, so you're allowed to. So l'chura, if you're allowed to build a door connected the other door in Rosh Hashanah, so koshkin, if you have a door and you want to make your door wider, so l'chura it's pasha that you're allowed to. Halacha Yud Beis Keifim b'nei movi zeh Lasis lamlechi ekera lamovi. Whereas the din is that a movi that's open beruach revius, in order to be able to carry on Shabbos, it has to have either a lechi or a kera, like we learned in Hilchos Shabbos. So Memela, the din is that the bnei amovi could force each other, in other words, whatever expenses involved in making over there a lechi or kera, so the bnei amovi could force each other. This is a need of the movi, that it should be mutter to be able to carry in the movi on Shabbos. So therefore, they're kaifin zeh to make either a lechi or a kera lamovi. Halacha Yud Gimel. Mi sheyeshli pesach lemovi. Someone has an opening going into this movi. Through this movi, he goes into his chotzer. Ein b'nei movi koifenoi say lasis delis lemovi. So in other words, you cannot force a person that's part of this movi. In other words, he has a chotzer into the movi to be mishtativ and make a delis lemovi. Why? Sheyachol leima. This person can taina ritzoini sheikonis bechavilosi at pischi. I don't want to have a delis to the chotzer, to the movi, because I'd like to be able to walk into the movi carrying my pekel on my shoulder. And if there's going to be a delis, so it's going to be too narrow, and I'll have to take it off in order to get in. So memela, I'd rather there shouldn't be a delis. The Lashon Rambam is you can't force him to be mishtativ in the delis because he's not interested in the delis. But the Maggid Mishnah says nachmer. I mean, you have to understand why doesn't the Rambam write that? The Maggid Mishnah says nachmer, that not only you cannot force him to be mishtativ in the delis, he could prevent him from making a delis. He could tell him, I don't want the delis because lepeil, I want to be able to go in the chavilosi al ksefi. So a shaila, why doesn't the Rambam write that if that's the din? But al kopon, the Rambam writes you can't force him to be mishtativ in the delis because he doesn't want a delis. Now, movi am a foolish Rosh Hashanah. If you have a movi which is mefulish Rosh Hashanah, in other words, it's open to the one side is open to the Rosh Hashanah, and a ubikshu bnei amovi lahamid lem dlasis, and the bnei amovi want to make a delis. Everyone wants to make a delis. So the din is bnei Rosh Hashanah makvam aleim. The Rosh Hashanah can be makif. They could tell to the bnei amovi mipnei shepoamim deichen arabim v'nichnasim beis. So it's like the bnei Rosh Hashanah have a psazak kinyan in this movi, even though it's not really their property. Just like al derech, that you have a mesias of a derech shekov shebarabim. So memela the rabbin will koina the derech. So al derech is over here. Since this movi, which is pasuach Rosh Hashanah, it's mefulish Rosh Hashanah, is a place where the bnei Rosh Hashanah occasionally push into this movi. So therefore, the bnei movi don't have a right to create a matzav where they can't push into the movi, and therefore they're not allowed to build losses on this movi and preventing the bnei Rosh Hashanah from being able to get into the movi. Halacha Yudalit. Mi shebikesh lifteach Pesach b'movi she'eni mefulish. You have a movi that's not mefulish. Eni mefulish means it's not mefulish from both sides. A movi mefulish means from both sides. So when it says both sides, it's not really that thoroughfare. Is not really the reshus of the movi, because people go in and out of that area to different places. It's like a reshus harabim. Masha'inkin, if it's a mavi she'enim foolish, so it's not open from both sides. So therefore, basically, this area is an area that belongs to the bnei mavi. It belongs to the bnei mavi. Now you have a chotzer, let's say, that's on this mavi, but on the other, it doesn't have an opening to the mavi. You could have a chotzer which has an opening to another mavi. In other words, there's like a street going on one side of the chatzeres and another street going on the other side of the chatzeres. And now you have a chotzer which has an opening to the other street and not to this street. Is Misha Bikesh Lefteach Pesach b'mavi she'enim mefulish. It's a mavi she'enim mefulish, and there's no door going from, let's say, this chotzer or from this house into this mavi. Is b'nei mavi makvin olav. Just like we learned before that a chotzer, the people of the chotzer could say, no, we don't want other people to join into this chotzer. We don't want other people to have right of way into this chotzer, because we only want to use the chotzer ourselves. So the same way, the mavi, which is enim mefulish, belongs to the bnei mavi, and therefore the bnei mavi could taina. We don't want new people joining this mavi, because there's new people that are joining this mavi. That's talking about when it's a mavi she'enim mefulish. So the people of the mavi have rights to this mavi. However, if mavi am foolish, so people walk from all sides. There's people just go through this mavi from one side to the other. Is pesach called pesach sheyirsa lechatchila, because it doesn't really belong to the mavi. Basically, since it's something which is a thoroughfare, which is used for people to go from one side to the other, all kinds of people, not only the bnei mavi. So obviously, a person that's in this mavi and he wants to open a door into the mavi, there's no problem. No one could prevent him from doing this. Halacha tezvav hoyeli pesach sosum b'mavi she'enim mefulish. He had already a door. We're talking about, before we said a mavi she'enim mefulish, and he wants to open a door, so they can prevent him from opening the door. He already had a door, but lapel, that door was closed up. It was a closed up door. It wasn't a used door. And now he wants to reopen that door. So the din is Areza Pesche b'chol eishayirsa. He could reopen that door whenever he wants. However, in Paratzis Psimov, if he didn't just close up that door, he actually took away the mezuzahs and the mashke from the door. In other words, he completely took away the whole frame of the door and he closed it up, so it became uizdor, as if there was never a door there. So now, b'nei mavi makron olav. So then the b'nei mavi makron olav. So in other words, the din that we learned before, that the b'nei mavi could ma'akv someone for making a pesach. So if you had a pesach and it was just closed up, so that's not making a pesach. You had a pesach, you're just reopening a pesach. But if that pesach was paratzis psimov, so it's as if you didn't have a pesach, you completely took away any rights of a pesach. So memela, so now b'nei mavi ma'akv olav. V'chein. Now there's another din. Echad b'nei mavis. Before we were talking about a person that wants to open a door. Now it's fakert. Echad b'nei mavis shebikesh listim pischei. Ulachzir lemavi acher. So again, there's an access. There's two. He wants his door not to open to this mavi anymore. He wants to become uis part of this mavi. So the din is over here. B'nei mavi ma'akvanol. They could prevent him from taking himself away from being part of the mavi. Why? Because Shema Yavi Alei Mas, Umismait Mechelkim and Amatz HaKotzel Bnei HaMavi. There was a time that there was a musik that the Bnei HaMavi have to pay a certain amount of tax. So if there's less people in the Mavi, so Mela, each person in the Mavi is going to have to pay more tax. So since he was a part of this Mavi, which means he was also a participant in the Mas which was on the Mavi, so now when he wants to, so to speak, completely take himself away from this mavi and no longer become part of the mavi by closing up that door to the mavi, so then he's basically causing everyone else to have to pay more. In a place where there's no such a concept of having a tax on the bnei mavi, is areza seisem pischi b'chol she'yirsa. The only reason why there would be a reason you should be able to prevent him from taking himself away from the mavi is because he's going to cause that everyone else is going to have to pay a greater amount of tax. Mashenkin, if there's no musig of a tax on the bnei mavi, so then this din doesn't apply. Allah Tezayin. Chomish chatzeres hapsuches lemavi she'enim mefulish. You have 5 chatzeres who are opened to a mavi she'enim mefulish. And as we said, a mavi she'enim mefulish is a place where people have the rights to this mavi. You know, just like a chotzer, the Anshe Abayis have a rights to the chotzer, so the people over here, the Bnei HaChatzeres, have a right to this mavi. Now the question, what part of the mavi? So if you have a mavi, so you have let's say the mavi is like a street, and the chatzeros open up to the street. So there's the chatzer that opens up to the beginning of the mavi. Let's say we're talking about a mavi shcheinim fuller. So on one side it's completely closed, and on one side it's open. So when you come into the open area, so you meet the first chatzer, then you meet the second chatzer, the third chatzer, etc. Now, obviously, the person that's in the very inside chatzer, he uses the entire mavi. But the person that's on the outside chatzer, l'churi, he has no rights to the rest of the mavi. He has only rights to be able to use the beginning of the mavi to get to his chatzer. Once he gets to his chatzer, so basically that's what his rights to the mavi is. Now he wants to go further into the mavi, so basically he has no rights to further into the mavi. The further into the mavi, he's a stranger. And al derech zeh, the person that's the second in the mavi, he has a right until his door. Masha'inkin, further than his door, he has no rights anymore, as we'll soon see. Chamesh chatzeres hapsuches lemavi she'enim befulish. They're all open to a mavi she'enim befulish. So the din is kula mishtamshis machatzena. So in other words, the chatzena means the outside one, the one that you come in right away when you come from the outside, from the place that's open. So they all are mishtamish machatzena. They all walk by his chatzer. V'achitzena mishtameshes la'atzma, but the chitzena only uses its own place, the area in front of his chatzer. It doesn't use the ones that are further in. V'chein hashniya mishtameshes la'atzma, and also mishtameshes machitzena. The second chatzer uses the place in front of its chotzer and also in front of the outside chotzer, because it has to pass by that area to get outside the mavi. Hapnim is the very inner mavi, the very inner chotzer rather, is mishtameshes some kula, mishtameshes with all the area in front of all the chatzeres, mishtameshes la'atzma, lefichach. So as a result of that, in Baal Hashniya, if the one that has the second chotzer, Bone itztaba keneged pischei v'sosmei, he builds a itztaba, like a platform in front of his Pesach, and he closes it up. So basically, when a person's now going to have to walk, so he's going to have to walk around that platform. In other words, that platform is protruding from the door. So now, when you're going to walk, you're not going to have as much space in the mavi as you had before, because this platform is taking up some space. So in Baal Hashniya bana itztaba keneged pischei v'sosmei, the first Baal HaChotzer can't say anything to this second Baal HaChotzer, because the first Baal HaChotzer has no business b'chlal passing his chotzer into the mavi. He has no rights into that mavi, so therefore he can't say, listen, you're taking up too much space. That space has nothing to do with him. Avol kol hapnimis, but all the other ones, the third and the fourth and the fifth, the ones that are inside, is menakarel. If they could tiny, why are you building over here in Itztaba? In other words, you're extending a little bit outside of your door. You're causing us that we have to walk around your Itztaba. Shari makifana Itztaba. We're going to have to walk around your Itztaba in order to get from where we are to the outside. We're not going to be able to walk straight. V'chein Baal Hashniya shepasel chatzerei Pesach Shein. Now that's the number one. Now what happens if they want to open another door? They want to open another door going from their chutzner or from their house into the mavi. So that's it. Baal Hashniya, the person that has the second chutzner, shepasach chatzerei Pesach Sheini beinei ubein achitzena. So you have the chutzner number one. That's right away after the opening, and then you have chutzner number two, which has his Pesach. And now the Baal Chotzer number two opens another opening between his opening and the opening of the Chotzer number one. So who has a problem with it? No one has a problem with it. Because Lepeil, the Baal Chotzer Beis, he was able to use the Mavi until his opening. Now Lepeil, the opening that he now added, is closer to the outside. So he was able to always use it. So what should be a problem? Elamai, the Baal HaChotzer Aleph is going to have a problem. The Baal HaChotzer Aleph has no rights beyond his door. So if let's say when you walk into the mavi, so you walk in 5 feet, that's where the door of the Baal HaChotzer Aleph is. You walk another 5 feet, so now that's where the door of the Baal HaChotzer Abeis is. Now between that door and that door, say the Baal HaChotzer Abeis built another door. So who has complaints? The people of the outside. The outside chotzer has no rights to there. He only has a right to his door, so he never was able to extend beyond that door. The people on the in the very inside, anyways, he has a right to that original door that he had, which is further in. So who has tinus? So mainly there's no time. V'chein bala shniya shepasel chatzeri pesach sheni, a second door beinei ubein achitzeni, between him and the outside chatzer, is ein achitzeni ma'akeves olav. The one, the outside chatzer, has no tightness to it. She'ein olav leilishtamesh el mipiskei luchutz. He only has rights to this mavi from his door outwards. Avol and pasach ha-pesach ha-sheni beinei ubein hashlishi. If he's going to build a second door, not between his door and the first one's door, the outside door, but rather between his door and the third door. So he's basically extending his rights in the mavi. Until now, his rights in the mavi was only until his door, and now all of a sudden he's like extending his rights to the mavi, that it should be further. It should be further towards the third chotzer. Avol and pasach ha-pesach ha-sheni b'nei u'bein hashlishi. So then apnimis ma'akeves olav. So the inner ones could be ma'akev. She'ein lo lishtamish b'mavi ela mipesach hatzeri harishon l'chutz. He could only use in the mavi from his original door. Mipesach hatzeri harishon. The harishon goes on the word pesach, not chatzeri harishon. Mipesach hatzeri harishon, the first door of his chatzer. U'lechutz. B'chein adin b'kulam. That's this din. So notice the nekudas advarim, the bechlal is they have rights to the mavi as well, but on the other end, their rights to the mavi is only until where they need the right of way in this mavi to get into their chutzner. Once beyond that, that has nothing to do with them.